The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a hiss. Ambassador Dr. Maya Chen stepped inside, her boots clicking softly against the polished crystal floor. The chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Curved seating rose in tiers around a central platform where Maya now stood, feeling very small and very alone. Above her, the viewing galleries were packed with aliens of every imaginable shape and size. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed oxygen, others floated in specialized containment fields. All of them were staring at her with what she could only describe as amused curiosity. Maya had prepared for this moment for 3 years. Humanity had finally achieved faster-than-light travel and discovered they were not alone in the universe. The discovery had been both exciting and humbling. The galaxy was old, ancient even, and humanity were the newcomers, the primitives from a backwater solar system that nobody had bothered to visit. Ambassador Chen of Earth, a booming voice announced, "You may present your petition to the Council." Maya looked up at the speaker. High Commander Vexter of the Crothion Empire sat in the highest seat. His reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. The Crothians were the dominant military power in this sector, and they knew it. Their empire spanned 40 star systems, and their fleets were legendary. Maya activated her translator and began. Honored members of the Galactic Council, I come before you today to request full membership for humanity in the galactic community. We seek fair trade agreements, recognition of our territorial sovereignty over our home system, and a voice in council decisions that affect our region of space. She paused, expecting questions. Instead, she heard laughter. It started as a chuckle from somewhere in the upper tiers. Then another joined in. Within seconds, the entire chamber was filled with the sound of alien laughter. Some species barked, others whistled, and some made sounds that Maya's translator couldn't even process. Vexter raised a clawed hand, and the laughter slowly died down. Tell me, Ambassador, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. What makes you think your species deserves such treatment? You have one world, one system. Your ships are slow and primitive. Your weapons are barely capable of defending your own planet. Maya kept her face neutral. We may be new to the galactic stage, but we are a determined and resourceful people. We ask only for fair treatment and the chance to prove ourselves. This brought another round of laughter. A slug-like creature in the middle tier spoke up, its voice translated into perfect English. Determined. Resourceful? You negotiate instead of conquer. You ask instead of take. These are the actions of weak creatures, not those worthy of council membership. Maya felt her jaw tighten, but she forced herself to remain calm. We believe that cooperation benefits all parties more than conflict. Vexter leaned forward in his seat. Let me make something clear. Human. The galaxy does not care about your beliefs. The galaxy respects strength, power, the ability to take what you want and defend what is yours. You have none of these things. He stood up, his massive form casting a shadow across the chamber. I will give you a choice, Ambassador Chen. Humanity can accept tributary status under the Crothian Empire. You will pay taxes, provide resources, and follow our laws. In return, we will protect you from other, less merciful species. Or he paused dramatically. You can refuse and face the consequences of your arrogance. Maya took a deep breath. High Commander, members of the Council, I urge you to reconsider. The terms I have proposed are reasonable and fair. They benefit all parties involved. Reasonable? Vexter laughed again. You come here with nothing to offer and make demands? You have 72 hours to accept tributary status. If you refuse, we will teach your species the price of defiance. Maya looked around the chamber. Not a single species spoke in humanity's defense. They all watched with varying degrees of amusement or indifference. She had known this would be difficult, but the casual cruelty in their dismissal surprised her. She straightened her diplomatic sash and looked directly at Vexter. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but clear. High Commander, what I have presented today are my kind requests. I strongly suggest you accept them. The chamber erupted in laughter once more. Vexther's eyes narrowed. Your kind requests? And what will you do if we refuse, little human? Send us a strongly worded letter. Maya didn't respond. She simply bowed formally and turned to leave as she walked toward the exit. Her assistant, James Park, fell into step beside her. He had been waiting in the antechamber, monitoring the proceedings. Once they were outside and the doors closed behind them, James spoke quietly. Ambassador, are you all right? Your hands are shaking. Maya looked down at her trembling fingers. She clasped them together tightly. I'm fine, James. They were incredibly disrespectful. The way they laughed. I'm not angry, Maya interrupted. She stopped walking and turned to face him. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held something else, something that made James take a step back. I'm not angry at all, James. I'm terrified. Terrified. Of them? Maya shook her head slowly. No, I'm terrified of what happens if they don't listen. I'm terrified of what will have to become if they force our hand. She started walking again, her pace quickening. Contact Earth Command. Tell them the negotiations failed. And James. Yes, Ambassador. Tell them to activate Protocol 7, just in case. James felt a chill run down his spine. He had read about Protocol 7 during his security briefing, though most of the details were classified. He knew enough to understand that its activation meant humanity was preparing for the worst. As they boarded their shuttle back to the human embassy ship, neither of them noticed the small, insectoid alien watching from a nearby observation port. Tellus, junior archivist of the Galactic Council, had witnessed the entire proceeding. Unlike the others, Tellus had not laughed instead. Something about the human ambassador's final words had triggered Tellus's curiosity. The archivist made a decision. Tomorrow, Tellus would begin researching this species called humanity. Something told Tellus that the Council was making a terrible mistake. But by then, it might already be too late. Part 2. Files from a Forgotten War. Tellus had been a Council archivist for 12 standard years. In that time, the insectoid alien had cataloged the histories of hundreds of species, organized thousands of treaties, and maintained the vast digital libraries that preserved galactic knowledge. Tellus took pride in thorough research and attention to detail qualities that most other Council members found boring. But something about yesterday's proceedings bothered Tellus. The human ambassador's words kept echoing in the archivist's mind. That was me being kind. Tellus settled into the archive workstation and began searching. The file on humanity was surprisingly thin. First contact had been made only 5 years ago when a human exploration vessel stumbled upon a Crothian mining operation. The file contained basic information, species classification, homeworld designation, technological level assessment, but there was almost nothing about their history. Tellus found this odd. Standard protocol required detailed historical analysis of any species before they petitioned for Council membership. Someone had been lazy. Or perhaps humanity had seemed too insignificant to bother with proper research. The archivist decided to dig deeper. Tellus accessed humanity's own data networks, using translation algorithms to process the enormous amount of information available. What Tellus discovered over the next several hours made the archivist's antenna quiver with alarm. Humanities. History was soaked in blood. Tellus read about something called the world. Wars. Global conflicts that killed tens of millions. The weapons they used were primitive by galactic standards, but the scale of destruction was horrifying. Entire cities burned, populations starved, and the humans kept fighting. Then Tellus found information about nuclear weapons. The archivist stared at the screen in disbelief. These humans had developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet, and they had actually used them, twice, on their own kind. But the truly disturbing part came next. After proving they could annihilate themselves, humanity had stepped back from the brink. They created treaties, established international organizations, and slowly, painfully learned to cooperate instead of destroy. Tellus discovered human military strategy documents that made even Crothian battle plans look simple. Humans had concepts like total war, mutually assured destruction, and scorched earth policy. They had waged psychological warfare, biological warfare, and had even developed theories about artificial intelligence warfare. This species that everyone had laughed at yesterday had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other. A priority message interrupted Tellus's research. The archivist opened it and felt a wave of dread. High Commander Vexther had ordered Crothian patrol ships to begin testing human defenses. Already, 3 human cargo vessels had been intercepted and searched. One had been seized on false charges. Tellus immediately sent a message to the council requesting an emergency session. The request was denied. A response came from Vexther's office. The human situation is under control. Your concern is noted. Meanwhile, aboard the human embassy ship, Ambassador Chen was receiving similar reports. Each incident was technically legal. Under current council regulations, barely, but the pattern was clear. The Crothians were provoking a response. Maya sent diplomatic protests. They were ignored. She requested mediation. The request was laughed at literally. Someone had sent back a recording of alien laughter as a response. James Park stood beside her, watching the tactical display. Ambassador, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting a Crothian battle group moving toward the colony ship Prosperity. 3,000 civilians on board, mostly families. Maya's face went pale. Contact the Prosperity. Tell them to change course immediately. They're trying, but the Crothians are faster. They'll be intercepted in 4 hours. Maya made her decision. She recorded a message and transmitted it directly to Vexther. High Commander, I am formally requesting that you leave the Prosperity alone. They are civilians, non-combatants. Harming them would be an act of war. The response came within an hour. Vexther appeared on screen, his reptilian features twisted into a cruel smile. Ambassador Chen, your colony ship failed to submit to a routine inspection. This is a violation of Section 12 of the Transit Regulations. The vessel and its passengers will be impounded and sold at auction to recover the fines. Maya felt ice in her veins. Selling humans into slavery? Because that's what it was. Regardless of the legal terminology, was an act of war in everything but name. She took a deep breath and recorded her response. High Commander Vexther, members of the Galactic Council, I want to be absolutely clear. What I offered you 3 days ago were kind requests, reasonable terms, a peaceful path forward. She paused, making sure every word was transmitted clearly. That was me being kind. You have 24 hours to stand down, return our people unharmed, and come to the negotiating table. This is your only chance. When the message reached the council chamber, it was played aloud. The assembled aliens looked at each other in confusion. Then someone laughed. Then another. Soon the entire chamber was filled with mocking laughter. Vexther composed his response carefully. He wanted the humans to understand their place. Ambassador Chen, your threats are as empty as your promises. In 24 hours, your colonists will be processed and sold. Perhaps their new owners will teach them the respect you clearly lack. This conversation is over. Back in the archives, Tellus had continued researching. The archivist had found something particularly disturbing, a human concept called rules of engagement, and another called war crimes. Humans had actually created laws about how to fight wars. They had established boundaries, lines they would not cross, agreements about protecting civilians and prisoners, but Tellus also found records of what happened when those rules were broken. When humans believed they were fighting for survival, when they thought their families were threatened, those carefully constructed boundaries disappeared. History showed that humanity was capable of terrible things when pushed too far. Tellus tried again to contact the council, sending an urgent message marked Priority 1. It included excerpts from human history and a warning. This species is far more dangerous than assessed. Recommend immediate diplomatic resolution. The message was ignored. 20-4 hours passed. The Crothian battle group intercepted the Prosperity as planned. Marines boarded the vessel. They began processing the civilians for transport to a slave auction. separating families and cataloging each human by their potential labor value. Hi. Commander Vexter watched from his flagship satisfied. The humans would learn their place. The Council would see Crothian's strength, and his empire would profit from the sale of 3,000 new slaves. Then his tactical officer spoke up, voice trembling. Commander, we're detecting multiple jump signatures. Ships entering the system. How many? 50. No, 100. Commander, they're appearing everywhere. I've never seen this kind of jump precision before. Vexter stood up, scales bristling. Battle stations. Identify those ships immediately. The answer came a moment later, and it changed everything. They're human, Commander. The human fleet is here. Part 3. The sleeping giant opens its eyes. The human fleet appeared like ghosts, materializing from nothing. One moment, space around the colony ship Prosperity was empty, except for the Crothian battle group. The next moment, 100 human warships filled the void. Their arrival so precise that they formed a perfect sphere around the Crothian vessels. On the bridge of the Crothian flagship Domination, High Commander Vexter stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How did they jump in so close? That's impossible. Jump drives need at least a light-minute safety distance. His tactical officer's hands were shaking as she worked her console. I don't know, Commander. Our sensors didn't detect any jump wake until they were already here. It's like they just ... appeared. Vexter's mind raced. The technology required for that kind of precision shouldn't exist. His intelligence reports had said human jump drives were primitive, requiring hours of calculation and leaving massive energy signatures. These ships had jumped in simultaneously, within weapons range. With zero warning, a transmission came through. The face that appeared on screen was weathered and stern, a human male with gray hair and cold blue eyes. This is Admiral James Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. You are holding 3,000 human civilians aboard the vessel Prosperity. You will release them immediately and withdraw from this system. Vexter forced himself to laugh, though it sounded hollow even to his own ears. Admiral Morrison, you are outnumbered. I have 30 warships to your... He checked his display. 100. But quantity means nothing. My ships are more powerful, better armed. My crew is trained and experienced. Your vessels are new, your crews untested. Stand down before you get your people killed. Morrison's expression didn't change. You have 1 hour to comply. After that, we will take action. The transmission ended. Vexter turned to his weapons officer. Lock all weapons on the nearest human ships. If they so much as Commander? The tactical officer interrupted. Our weapon systems are offline. What? All of them? Yes, sir. Missiles, energy cannons, even point defense systems. Everything just stopped working. Vexter felt panic rising in his chest. That's impossible. Our weapons are hardened against electromagnetic attacks. They have triple redundancy. Across the Crothian fleet, the same scene was playing out. Weapon systems that had functioned perfectly moments ago were now completely dead. Engineers ran diagnostics and found nothing wrong. The systems simply refused to activate. Admiral Morrison appeared on screen again, though this time his transmission was being broadcast to every ship in both fleets and to the Galactic Council chamber. High Commander, we have disabled your weapon systems. No one has been harmed. This is a demonstration of restraint. We could have done much worse. On the council station, representatives scrambled to their seats. The broadcast was being shown on the main display, along with tactical data that made no sense. Somehow humans had infiltrated Crothian military systems so completely that they could shut down weapons at will. Morrison continued speaking. We are now evacuating our civilians from the Prosperity. Your Marines will not resist. If they do, they will be incapacitated. Not killed, incapacitated. We prefer not to harm anyone if we can avoid it. On the Prosperity, Crothian Marines suddenly found their weapons powering down. Then, before they could react, human soldiers appeared from nowhere, personal teleportation technology that shouldn't exist. The humans moved with professional efficiency. using non-lethal stunning devices to neutralize any Marine who reached for a weapon. Within 20 minutes, all 3,000 colonists were evacuated. Human ships moved them to safety, while Crothian forces could only watch. Helpless, Vexther's claws dug into his command chair. "Get those weapons back online. Someone tell me how they're doing this." His chief engineer appeared on the internal com. "Commander, we've found the problem. There's code buried deep in our operating system code that's been there for years. It's in every Crothian military computer. When activated, it creates a feedback loop that crashes all weapons protocols. Sir, they must have infiltrated our systems years ago, long before we even knew humans existed." The implications were staggering. It meant humans had hacking and cyber warfare capabilities far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. It meant they had been preparing, watching, learning about potential threats before making first contact. Admiral Morrison's voice came through again. "Hi, Commander. Your weapons will be restored in 24 hours. Consider this a warning. We have disabled your weapon systems across 14 military installations throughout your empire. Again, no one has been harmed. But make no mistake, we could have done far more damage." Back in the Council archives, Tellus finally managed to get someone to listen. The archivist had compiled a comprehensive report on human history and was presenting it to a hastily assembled security committee. "Look at this," Tellus said, displaying images on the screen. "This is what humans call World War II. They fought with primitive kinetic weapons and explosives. The death toll was over 70 million. That's more than the entire population of some council species." A Valorian representative waved a tentacle dismissively. "Many species have had destructive wars in their past," Tellus continued. "Look at what they developed to war at the end of that war." The image changed to show a mushroom cloud. "This is a nuclear weapon. A single bomb that destroyed an entire city in seconds. They dropped 2 of these on their own kind." The committee members shifted uncomfortably. "But here's what's important," Tellus said urgently. "After proving they could destroy themselves, they stopped. They created international treaties. They established rules for warfare. They developed the concept of war crimes actions so terrible that they agreed to punish anyone who committed them, even their own people." Another image appeared, showing human military doctrine. "This is what humans call proportional response. They teach their soldiers to use only the minimum force necessary. They have entire legal frameworks about protecting civilians, treating prisoners with dignity, avoiding unnecessary destruction." A council member spoke up. "So they've grown soft, weak. They negotiate instead of fight." "No." Tellus's antennae waved frantically. "You don't understand. They're not weak. They choose restraint because they know what they're capable of. Look at these military strategies: combined arms warfare, network-centric operations, information warfare, psychological operations. They've spent thousands of years learning how to fight efficiently." The security committee was finally paying attention. Tellus brought up more files. "They have weapons concepts we've never even thought of. Biological warfare that could wipe out entire species. Artificial intelligence that could control all our systems. They've theorized about stellar engineering weapons that could destroy stars, but they don't use these things," someone said. "Exactly," Tellus replied. "They don't use them because they know what happens when you do. They've learned restraint the hard way, and that's what makes them truly dangerous. They're not controlled by fear or lack of capability. They choose mercy. They choose negotiation, until you force them to choose otherwise." The committee sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. Back in Crothian space, High Commander Vexther had received new orders from the Empire. Stand down. Avoid further confrontation. But Vexther's pride wouldn't allow it. He had been humiliated in front of the entire galaxy. The Crothian Empire looked weak. He called a secret meeting with his senior officers. The humans have shown they have sophisticated technology. But technology alone doesn't win wars. They're still newcomers, still unfamiliar with galactic warfare. We will show them the price of defying the Crothian Empire. One of his officers spoke hesitantly. "Commander, perhaps we should heed the Council's advice." And silence. Vexther roared. I will not accept this humiliation. I have authorized the deployment of planet-killer missiles. Their target is the human homeworld, Earth itself. The officers looked at each other in shock. Planet-killer missiles were weapons of last resort, banned by most civilized species. They were designed to crack a planet's crust, rendering it uninhabitable for centuries. Duh. Commander? That's an extinction-level attack, someone said. Vexeter's eyes gleamed with cold fury. Yes, and when their precious Earth is nothing but rubble, the humans will learn to respect Crothian power. Launch in 6 hours. Do it quietly. By the time anyone realizes what we've done, it will be too late. The orders were transmitted. Deep in Crothian military installations, 4 planet-killer missiles began their launch sequences. Each one was powerful enough to destroy Earth alone. 4 would ensure complete annihilation. The missiles launched in silence. Their stealth systems activated, making them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Flight time to Earth, 6 hours. But in a secure facility on Luna, Earth's moon, alarms began blaring. Human military intelligence had been monitoring Crothian communications since the standoff began. They knew about the missiles within seconds of launch. Admiral Morrison stared at the tactical display, showing the missiles' trajectories. His staff stood frozen, waiting for orders. Morrison took a deep breath and spoke quietly into his com. Contact Ambassador Chen. Tell her the Crothians have launched planet killers. 4 of them, targeting Earth. Then, he paused. Activate Protocol 7. Full authorization. God help us all. The message reached Maya Chen within seconds. She read it twice, hoping she had misunderstood. But the words were clear. James Park watched as the color drained from her face. Ambassador? Maya looked up at him, and for the first time since the crisis began, James saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of death, fear of what humanity was about to become. James, she said quietly, get me a direct line to the Galactic Council. Emergency priority. And tell them. Her voice cracked slightly. Tell them we tried. Tell them we really tried. Part 4. The choice humanity hoped never to make the Galactic Council chamber filled faster than it ever had before. Representatives teleported in, rushed through doors, or connected via holographic link. Emergency sessions were rare. But an emergency session called by humanity, the species everyone had been mocking days ago, was unprecedented. Ambassador Maya Chen appeared on the main display. The change in her appearance shocked many council members. Gone was the patient diplomat who had stood before them asking for fair treatment. Her eyes were red, her face drawn. She looked like someone who had not slept in days. Members of the Galactic Council, she began. Her voice steady, but filled with emotion. 6 hours ago, the Crothian Empire launched 4 planet-killer missiles at Earth. These weapons are currently in flight. They are designed to crack my planet's crust and kill every living thing on its surface. 8 billion people. My home. Everything humanity has ever built or dreamed of. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several representatives turned to the Crothian delegation, who sat in uncomfortable silence. Even they had not known about Vexer's decision. Maya continued speaking. And now her voice carried an edge that made even the most powerful species in the galaxy pay attention. For the past week I have tried diplomacy. I have been patient. I have been kind. I have negotiated in good faith even as my people were harassed, our ships seized, our colonists threatened with slavery. She paused, and a tactical display appeared beside her image. It showed the 4 missiles, their trajectories clearly marked, countdown timers ticking down. 5 hours and 42 minutes until impact. Was kind, Maya said, because I desperately hoped that we could find a peaceful solution. That we could join the galactic community as partners, as friends. That we could share what we've learned from our history, our mistakes, our painful journey towards civilization. The display changed, showing new data. 3 minutes ago, human defense systems intercepted and neutralized all 4 planet-killer missiles. They never had a chance to reach Earth. Our point defense network tracked them from the moment they launched, calculated their trajectories, and eliminated them. Relief swept through the chamber. At least there would be no planetary genocide today. But Maya's next words froze that relief. The missiles are neutralized. Earth is safe. But you tried to kill my species. You tried to murder billions of people, children, families, everyone I have ever known or loved. And now, I have to show you something I hoped you would never see. The display changed again. This time it showed a star map of Crothion space. Every major planet, station, and military installation was marked with a red indicator. These are real-time feeds, Maya explained. At this moment, human ships are positioned around every significant Crothion asset. Our ships use jump technology. You didn't know we had to arrive simultaneously at hundreds of locations. We've been in position for the past hour. A Valorian representative spoke up. Ambassador, surely you don't mean to let me finish. Maya interrupted, and her tone made the representative fall silent. I want you to understand what you're seeing. These aren't threats. These aren't empty promises. This is humanity showing you who we really are. The display zoomed in on one of the human ships. Technical data scrolled beside it, and even species with advanced understanding of physics looked confused. This is our quantum disruptor technology. It can atomize matter at the molecular level. One ship could eliminate an entire fleet in minutes. Another ship appeared. These are exotic matter weapons. They manipulate space-time itself. They could collapse a star if we wanted them to. A third display. This is our AI-coordinated strike system. It can calculate and execute attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. The entire Crothion Empire could be ended in less than 1 hour. The chamber was dead silent now. Every species present was performing the same calculation. If humanity had this technology, what else were they hiding? Maya's composure finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke. This is what we are. This is what we've always been capable of. This is why I was being kind. She took a shaky breath. My species spent thousands of years fighting ourselves. We developed nuclear weapons and almost used them to destroy our own planet. We created biological weapons that could have wiped out humanity and didn't care until we nearly did. We built artificial intelligence that could have enslaved us and only stopped at the last moment. Images from human history began playing on the display. Mushroom clouds, battlefields, cities in ruins. We know what war is. We understand destruction in ways you cannot imagine. We've done it to ourselves for so long that we carry the knowledge in our bones, in our nightmares, in our cultural memory. Maya's voice grew stronger, more intense. And then finally, after killing millions of our own kind, after bringing ourselves to the edge of extinction multiple times, we learned that the greatest strength isn't in your weapons, but in your choice not to use them. We learned that real power comes from restraint, from mercy, from choosing peace, even when you have the ability to wage war. She pointed at the tactical display. We could end the Crothion Empire right now. We have the technology, the position, the justification. You tried to commit genocide against my species? Under galactic law, we would be within our rights to respond with overwhelming force. The Crothion delegation sat frozen, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. But we won't, Maya said, and now her tears flowed freely. We won't because we know what we would become if we did. We've been down that path. We've seen where it leads. And we swore, my species swore, that we would never become that again if we could help it. She leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. I'm here to offer you one last chance, High Commander Vexter. All of you. Stand down. Accept our original terms, the kind, reasonable, fair terms I offered you 7 days ago. Let us be partners, not enemies. Let us share what we've learned about choosing peace over war. Maya's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but everyone heard it clearly. Because if you refuse, if you continue this path, we will defend our home. We will protect our people. And you will learn why humans don't fear war. We fear what we become during it. She stood up, and her final words carried the weight of 8 billion people behind them. You have 12 hours to respond. Stand down your forces. Recall High Commander Vexter. Accept our partnership, or She paused, and for a moment her mask slipped entirely, showing not a diplomat, but a terrified human being facing an impossible choice. Or we will show you what humanity looks like when we stop being kind. The transmission ended. In the council chamber, no one moved. No one spoke. The species that had laughed at humanity's diplomatic requests now understood. They had been laughing at a sleeping giant. Tellus, still present in the chamber, felt a strange emotion vindication mixed with horror. The archivist had tried to warn them. The research had been clear, but no one had listened. A junior Crothian officer approached the delegation with a message. After reading it, the senior Crothian representative stood up, scales pale. High Commander Vexter has been taken into custody by our own military. They refused to follow his orders any longer. Another representative asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens now? Before anyone could answer, a new transmission came through. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the display. Members of the Galactic Council, this is Admiral James Morrison. I am speaking to you not as a military officer, but as a father. I have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. They live on Earth, in a city called Seattle. He paused, visibly emotional. When I learned that planet-killer missiles were targeting my home, my first thought wasn't about tactics or strategy. I thought about my kids. I thought about whether they would be scared in their final moments. I thought about all the things I would never get to say to them. Morrison's hands clenched into fists. Every human in our fleet had similar thoughts. About their families, their friends, their homes, and every one of them followed orders. Every one of them took up positions around Crothian assets and prepared to do something none of us wanted to do. He looked directly at the camera. We're not monsters. We're not conquerors. We're people who have learned through hard experience and terrible loss that violence only breeds more violence. But we're also people who will defend our families, who will protect the innocent, who will do whatever is necessary to ensure our children have a future. The Admiral's expression hardened. You have 12 hours. Choose wisely. Because if you choose war, you will face an enemy that knows exactly what war is. An enemy that has perfected it through millennia of practice. An enemy that will do what needs to be done, even if it breaks our hearts to do it. The transmission ended. Leaving the council in stunned silence, a human battle group remained positioned around every major Crothian world. Their weapons were ready. Their targeting solutions were calculated. One word from Earth and the Crothian Empire would cease to exist. The clock was ticking. 12 hours to choose. Between peace and annihilation, 12 hours to decide whether the galaxy would learn from humanity's lessons or repeat humanity's mistakes. 12 hours until everyone discovered whether humans truly meant what they said about choosing kindness, or whether the galaxy had pushed them too far. Part 5. The Treaty of Restraint. The first 3 hours passed in tense silence. The Galactic Council remained in emergency session, but no one seemed to know what to say. Representatives whispered among themselves, their delegations consulting with homeworlds, light years away. Tellus the archivist finally got the audience that should have been granted days ago. The insectoid alien stood before the full council, presenting a comprehensive analysis of human history and capabilities. This is what we should have known before Ambassador Chen even arrived, Tellus said. Displaying images and data on the massive screens, humanity's development followed a unique path. Most species discover faster than light travel before developing weapons of mass destruction. Humans did the opposite. The archivist showed footage from human wars. They fought with primitive projectile weapons, while still divided into competing nations. But look at the sophistication of their tactics. Combined arms warfare, strategic bombing, psychological operations. They weren't just fighting, they were studying warfare as a science. A timeline appeared, showing human technological development. Then, they split the atom. Instead of using it for peaceful energy first, they weaponized it. They dropped nuclear bombs on their own kind. 2 cities, hundreds of thousands dead in seconds. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. Several species had nuclear technology, But using it on your own population was almost unthinkable. But here's what makes humans different, Tellus continued. After demonstrating they could destroy themselves, they stopped. They created international treaties banning certain weapons. They established rules for warfare. They developed the concept of crimes against humanity actions, so terrible that the entire species agreed to punish anyone who committed them. The archivist displayed human military doctrine. Look at these teachings. Minimum necessary force, protection of civilians, proportional response. These aren't the rules of a weak species. These are the hard-learned. Lessons of a species that knows exactly what happens when you don't have rules. More data appeared. Showing human weapons development, they theorized about biological warfare that could target specific genetic markers. Artificial intelligence that could wage war without human input. Weapons that could destroy stars. And then, and this is crucial, they chose not to build most of these things. Not because they couldn't, but because they understood the consequences. A council member from the Valorian delegation spoke up. You're saying they have the capacity for galactic-level warfare, but choose restraint? Exactly, Tellus replied. Their military philosophy is built around something they call peace through strength. They believe the best way to avoid war is to be so powerful that no one dares to start one, but simultaneously so committed to peace that they'll exhaust every diplomatic option first. The archivist brought up one final image, a quote from a human leader named Theodore Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick. That's their approach. Ambassador Chen spoke softly. We laughed at her soft words. We didn't see the big stick until they chose to show it to us. As Tellus finished the presentation, new information came through. Analysis of the technology humanity had displayed showed it was decades, possibly centuries, ahead of current galactic standards. Their jump drives operated on principles that violated what most species thought were the laws of physics. Their AI systems were sophisticated enough to make even the most advanced council species nervous. One representative asked the question everyone was thinking. If they're this advanced, why did they approach us as supplicants? They could have demanded council membership. Tellus's antenna drooped slightly, because they actually believe in the values they preach. They believe in diplomatic solutions. They believe in cooperation over domination. They came to us the way they wished others had come to them throughout their history, with respect and hope for partnership. The weight of that statement settled over the council. They had been offered friendship and responded with mockery. They had been given respect and replied with contempt. They had been shown kindness and answered with slavery and attempted genocide. In the Crothion, home world's capital, an emergency session of the Empire's High Command was underway. High Commander Vexther had been arrested, stripped of rank, and confined. His senior officers had reported his illegal orders to civilian leadership, horrified at how close they had come to galactic war. The Crothian Emperor himself addressed his military leaders. What Vexther did was not only illegal, but insane. He nearly brought extinction to our species out of pride and arrogance. The question now is, how do we fix this? One general spoke up. Your Majesty, our analysts have reviewed the human technology. If they wanted to eliminate us, we couldn't stop them. Our only option is complete surrender and hope for mercy. The Emperor shook his head. The humans have shown us mercy for days. Even now, with their fleets positioned to destroy us, they wait. They give us chances. That's not the behavior of conquerors. That's the behavior of species that genuinely seeks peace. He stood up. I will address the council personally. 6 hours into the deadline, the Galactic Council reconvened. The Crothian Emperor appeared via holographic transmission, something he had never done before. His presence shocked everyone. Emperors did not personally address the council. Members of the council, Ambassador Chen, Admiral Morrison, he began, his voice carrying genuine remorse. I speak for the Crothian Empire when I say we were wrong. Catastrophically, inexcusably wrong, he continued. High Commander Vexther acted without authorization when he launched those weapons. He has been arrested and will face trial for attempting to commit genocide, but I cannot blame him alone. The fault lies with our entire empire. With our culture of dominance and our belief that strength alone determines worth, the Emperor turned to look directly at where Ambassador Chen's transmission would be displayed. Ambassador, you came to us with reasonable requests, and we laughed. You showed patience, and we called it weakness. You offered kindness, and we responded with cruelty. And even now, with the power to destroy us, you wait. You give us chances. You choose mercy over vengeance. His voice grew thick with emotion. The Crothian Empire formally accepts all of your original terms. We recognize human sovereignty. We support full council membership for humanity. And we who have never begged, we beg for the chance to learn from you. To understand how a species learns to choose peace after knowing war so intimately. Other species quickly followed. One by one, council members stood to voice their support for human membership. The few who had spoken kindly of humanity in the past spoke again. Those who had laughed now apologized. The transformation was complete. Ambassador Maya Chen appeared on screen once more. She looked exhausted but relieved. Emperor, council members, thank you. Admiral Morrison, stand down our forces. Bring our people home. Across Crothian space, human ships began withdrawing. They left no damage, no destruction, only the memory of what could have happened. Maya continued, "Hey, we accept the Council's offer of membership. But I want to add something to the standard treaty. Something humanity learned through centuries of painful experience." She transmitted a document that appeared on every screen. This is what we call the Accord of Restraint. It's not just a treaty, it's a philosophy. We propose sharing with all Council species our history, our mistakes, and our solutions. We want to teach conflict resolution, diplomatic negotiation, and the principles of proportional response. A Valorian representative spoke up. "You want to teach us how to wage war more effectively?" "No," Maya corrected gently. "We want to teach you how to avoid war entirely, how to resolve conflicts before they become violent, how to recognize when fear and pride are driving decisions instead of reason, how to build lasting peace instead of temporary truces." She smiled, and for the first time in days, it was genuine. We learned these lessons in blood. Rivers of blood spanning thousands of years. If we can help other species learn them peacefully, then maybe all that suffering will have meant something. The Accord of Restraint was approved unanimously. Humanity became full members of the Galactic Council with all the rights and privileges that entailed. But more importantly, they became teachers. Human diplomats and psychologists began working with Council species. They taught negotiation techniques developed over centuries of human conflict resolution. They shared case studies of successful peace treaties and failed ones, explaining what worked and why. They introduced concepts like mutual benefit, compromise without surrender, and dignity in defeat. The program was voluntary, but species lined up to participate. The Crothians were first, eager to rebuild their reputation and genuinely learn from their mistakes. 2 months after the crisis, Ambassador Maya Chen stood in the observation deck of Council Station. The station orbited a beautiful blue-green world called Haven. Chosen as neutral ground centuries ago, Tellus approached. Mandibles clicking, and what Maya had learned was the insectoid version of a friendly greeting. "Ambassador Chen, I wanted to thank you personally." Maya turned, smiling. "Thank you. For what?" "For being right," Tellus said. "For showing us that strength and kindness aren't opposites, that the most powerful species can also be the most merciful. I've been an archivist for years, studying hundreds of civilizations. Humanity is unique." Maya shook her head gently. "We're not unique, Tellus. We're just survivors who learned our lessons. Any species could do the same. They just need the will to choose peace over pride." Tellus was quiet for a moment. "Ambassador, may I ask you something personal? During those 12 hours, when your fleets were positioned around Crothian worlds, what were you thinking?" Maya's smile faded. "I was praying that they would surrender, that we wouldn't have to pull that trigger, because I knew we all knew that if we had to attack, we would win the battle but lose something precious. We would become the thing we've spent centuries trying not to be, and if they hadn't surrendered, Maya looked out at the stars. Then we would have defended our home. We would have done what was necessary. But it would have broken us inside. Every human in the fleet understood that. We were prepared to sacrifice not just our lives but our souls, if needed to protect our families. Tellus's antennae quivered. That's terrifying. Yes, Maya agreed quietly. It is. That's why we work so hard to avoid it. A young human intern approached, carrying a datapad. Ambassador, the Galactic Council has voted to rename this week's events. They're calling it the Treaty of Restraint Crisis in official records. Maya nodded. Good. Let it be remembered not as a near war, but as a moment when we all chose better. When we all learned that restraint is strength, that mercy is power, that kindness. She paused. Remembering her words from that first day, that kindness backed by strength isn't weakness, it's civilization. Tellus spoke up again. You know, Ambassador, I've updated humanity's file in the archives. It's quite extensive now. Maya raised an eyebrow. What does it say? It says that humanity is a paradox. A species capable of unimaginable destruction that chooses instead to build. Warriors who prefer peace. Beings with the power to dominate who seek partnership. And most importantly, Tellus paused. It says that if you ever meet a human who says that was me being kind, you should listen very carefully. Because they're not threatening you, they're trying to save you from themselves. Maya laughed, a sound of genuine amusement mixed with relief. That's actually pretty accurate. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the station. Human vessels moved among them, no longer the laughingstock of the galaxy, but respected partners. Admiral Morrison joined them, carrying 2 cups of coffee, a human beverage that was quickly becoming popular across Council species. He handed one to Maya, thinking deep thoughts, Ambassador. Maya took the coffee gratefully. Just hoping we made the right choice, that this peace lasts. Morrison looked out at the assembled fleet. It will last as long as we remember what we almost lost. As long as we choose kindness over conquest. As long as we remember that our greatest victory wasn't positioning our fleets, it was pulling them back. Tellus added, the galaxy will remember this moment. Future generations will study it. They'll learn that the strongest weapon isn't the one you use, but the one you choose not to use. Maya raised her coffee cup in a small toast. To restraint. Morrison clinked his cup against hers. To kindness, slacking a beverage, simply clicked their mandibles. 2 humanity teachers of peace, masters of war, and proof that you can be both without contradiction. As Earth's sun rose over Haven's horizon, casting golden light across the observation deck, Maya Chen allowed herself a moment of hope. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity had taught without destroying. Peace had been chosen over pride. It wasn't a perfect peace. There would be challenges ahead, disagreements, conflicts of interest. But now there was understanding. Now there was respect. Now the galaxy knew that humanity's restraint wasn't weakness. It was wisdom earned through suffering, and if that wisdom could prevent even one species from repeating humanity's bloody history, then every struggle, every loss, every painful lesson humanity had endured would have been worth it. The Treaty of Restraint went into effect that day. It would become one of the most important documents in galactic history, not because it prevented a war, but because it showed a better way. Humanity had spoken softly as they preferred, but when necessary, they had shown their big stick. And then most remarkably, they had put that stick away and offered a hand in friendship instead. That it, more than any weapon or technology, was what made humanity truly exceptional. Not their capacity for violence, but their choice to be kind. Even when kindness was hard. Even when kindness was costly. Even when kindness required more courage than war ever would. The galaxy was learning. And humanity, patient teachers who had learned their lessons in blood and tears, were there to guide them. Because that's what civilization truly meant, not the absence of the capacity for violence, but the choice to build instead of destroy, to cooperate instead of dominate, to show kindness even when you have every right to show strength. Ambassador Maya Chen took another sip of her coffee and smiled. The future was uncertain, but for the first time since arriving at Council Station, she felt genuine hope. Humanity had found their place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as partners, teachers, and friends. And that was exactly what they had wanted all along. The end.